It's another beautiful Tuesday evening. Thanks for joining us on the news at 7 on NT International. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Now let's take the headlines. President Buhari reiterates commitment to fight against corruption, says no hiding place for corrupt persons. Federal government members assess facilities for coronavirus detection at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. Plus, Nigerian unlawfully detained in Saudi prison regains freedom. Thank you so much for joining us. Now let's begin the efforts at fighting corruption. President Muhammadu Buhari says with the reform agenda being implemented by his administration and open governance, there will be no hiding place for Nigeria's corrupt elements and indeed the proceeds of the various acts of economic sabotage. Speaking at the personal parade of detective inspectors of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the president was unequivocal that Nigeria is winning the war against corruption. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
281 detective inspectors found worthy in both character and learning graduated from the one-year intensive training program on a wide range of EFCC operations. For the first time, President Muhammadu Buhari is reviewing the passing out parade for the EFCC detectives, and these officers are therefore highly honored and motivated to join the nation's anti-corruption warriors. President Muhammadu Buhari expressed Nigeria's great confidence in the ability of the EFCC detectives to not only sustain but accelerate the current level of success attained in the renewed onslaught against corruption.
My aim is to ensure that no government financial transaction is done in secret. Nigeria has been ranked by World Bank as one of the top 10 reforming countries in the world. I assure you that we shall do even better.
The federal government, he said, has made substantial progress in making available to the public data on all contracts across government agencies as part of efforts to enhance the level of transparency in governance and make it difficult for corrupt elements and proceeds of corruption to hide.
It is in line with this commitment that I approve the Assets Tracing, Recovery and Management Regulation 2019. I am determined that the recovered assets are effectively managed with greater impact on fiscal operations of government and social investment policies of this administration. Soon there may be need to introduce a legal framework enforcing reporting of all non-classified public sector operations online. This would facilitate quicker attainment of our goals on open governance and the dismission of corruption in the country.
President Buhari said apart from the quantum of recoveries made and the number of cases successfully prosecuted, the government has also been working assiduously on preventing corruption from taking place through a series of institutional reforms. Acting chairman of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, reassured President Buhari that the commission will not relent in the execution of its mandate until the nation's financial and economic environment become fully sanitized, while confidence and integrity restored in business practices as well as the image of the country for the benefit of all.
EFCC performance will only continue to grow and are more determined than ever before, given your unflinching support to rid Nigeria of corruption. There are no sacred cows anymore. The fight against corruption is a fight that must be won to secure a better future for our generation and the generation yet unborn.
During the ceremony, fifth in its series, 5 graduating detective inspectors who distinguished themselves were rewarded with Agaku Francis Ikani carting home the Presidential Award as Best Overall Cadet. President Buhari has since returned to Abuja. Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Anti-legal and electoral matters, the Federal High Court in Abuja has restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from deregistering 31 political parties. The political parties were among the 74 whose registrations were withdrawn by INEC on February 6, 2020 due to their alleged poor performance in the 2019 general elections. Olabode Arewa reports.
The Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission from deregistering the 31 political parties on the grounds that the parties' application for a restraining order was not opposed by INEC. The 31 political parties and 2 others had filed an application on the 30th of October 2019, expressing the fear that they were going to be deregistered by INEC in violation of the law. While their suit was pending, INEC went on to deregister 74 political parties, including 31 of the 33 plaintiffs. Delivering a ruling on the plaintiffs' application, Justice Anwuli Chikere held that INEC failed to file a counter-affidavit to oppose the claims of the plaintiffs. Although INEC, through his lawyer Taminu Inuwa SCN, claimed that the electoral umpire was not served with the processes filed by the plaintiffs, the judge noted that there was proof in the cause file that INEC had indeed been served. The judge ruled that since no counter-affidavit was filed, the facts sworn to in the affidavit in support of the application remained unchallenged, undisputed, and deemed to be true. The Attorney General of the Federation and INEC are the 2 respondents in the matter. The court has adjourned the matter till February 27, 2020 for hearing in the substantive suits. The plaintiffs in the matter are the Advanced Congress of Democrats, filing on behalf of 30 other political parties. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has adjourned till the 2nd of March the application filed by the former governor of Imo State, Mr. Emeka Ihedioha of the People's Democratic Party, seeking a review of its judgment which nullified his election. The court also adjourned to the same date the application filed by the Zamfara State All Progressives Congress, also seeking a review of the decision of the court which invalidated the governorship, national and state House of Assembly elections on the grounds that the party failed to conduct legitimate primary elections in line with the Constitution. Viera Chumba has details.
The former governor of Imo State, Emeka Ihedioha of PDP, is requesting for 7 days to regularize its processes to the application. The motion by his counsel, Kanu Agabi, SAN, was not opposed by the respondent's counsel. The 7-man panel of justices led by Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad, was set to review the applications. In a unanimous decision of the Apex Court, read by Justice Kudira Kekereku, had agreed that results from 388 polling units were unlawfully excluded from Uzodinma's results, and that if the votes were included, Uzodinma would have scored majority of the lawful votes and ought to have declared winner of that election. On Zamfara case, the APC approached the court for review of its earlier judgment, which invalidated its participation in the governorship, national and House of Assembly election, which resulted in the APC losing all its seats declared by INEC. The case was adjourned due to non-service of hearing notice on the respondents.
It's simple that judgment was obtained by fraud, that the appellant in that appeal obtained the judgment by fraud. And in that application, we set out the grounds of fraud.
The review they are asking for is out of this world, because the very election petition and the entire appeals on it died on the 25th of May 2019.
The court itself observed that some of the parties in the matter are not aware. In other words, we are not served, so they are neither present here or represented by counsel. So that may go to infringe upon their fundamental right of fair hearing.
The Constitution says all courts except the tribunal, they have no originating power to take any matter except it is an appeal from the tribunal.
The decision of the Apex Court will be made known by 2nd of March. In Abuja, Viera Chumuba, NTA News.
In other news, the national grand patron of the All Progressives Congress Aspirants Forum, Sani Zango Dara, says the party's ideology of becoming a political institution can only be a reality if members display acts of loyalty to the leadership of the party at all levels. This was at the forum's maiden National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja. Saliu Abdullahi reports.
The forum's membership cut across all those who have adopted the All Progressives Congress as a political party to participate in elections at all levels. Although they are on the side of those who lost the elections either at party primary levels or during the polls, they are exploring this forum to showcase their agenda and commitment towards uplifting the party's ideology.
You have to be, as a matter of necessity, united. United, we stand. Divided, we fall. Be tuned to your objectives and focused. And you must be very selfless.
What we are now trying to do, like I said, is to complement the effort of our party, to make sure that this party exists and survives beyond 2023.
There is a conscious effort to make sure that women are not just carried along, but in the mainstream of every activity that is being done.
They have resolved to play active role as the party's ambassadors in propagating the activities of the government. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Let's now talk security. The intensive offensive operations of the Nigerian Air Force against terrorist targets in the northeast of the country have recorded further significant strikes. A statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, says the offensive operations is carried out by Operation Rattlesnake 3, being executed by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole. He said the operations dealt another devastating blow on elements of the Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP, with the destruction of a training camp on the fringes of Lake Chad in Borno State. Now, the Algerian police, Ibrahim from Zamfara State, who was unlawfully detained for 3 years in Saudi Arabia, has been released. Chairperson Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, gave the Chari news at the meeting of the Standing Committee on Diaspora Matters in Nigeria. Mia Ogidi reports.
Members of a standing committee, but they have to sit for a moment to check the level of progress made on the online registration of Nigerians in diaspora, skills acquisition and transfer of such skills for national development, and how to invest. Membership drawn from different government agencies and continents, but one request, centered on the validation of draft National Diaspora Policy and Action Plan.
And of course to see the results of the policy in conjunction with all the other policies that we have on migration-related matters in Nigeria.
With full dose of success reports and requests documented in a file, the chairperson of the Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, brought a good news.
Ibrahim, who has been locked in prison for 3 years in Saudi Arabia for an offense he did commit, the head of our legal department went to Saudi with 2 representatives from Zamfara with support from the Office of the Attorney General. And the good news is that this morning we've been able to get him out of prison.
And on the issue of Nigerians at the ground zero location of the coronavirus in China,
we have 60 students in Wuhan, and they've requested for financial support to help them buy things like face masks, medication, food. We are just on standby. Left to Mr. President, evacuation can be done now, but based on advice by the embassy, who is in touch with the students.
International Organization for Migration and the European Union are giving Nigeria a full backing on the protection of Nigerians in the diaspora, Abike Dabiri Erewa added. Mie Ogidi, NTA News.
The Algerian Police Authority says all its security expertise and experience in fighting terrorism will be used to support the Niger Police Force to help it overcome the security challenges bedeviling the country. Algerian Police Chief, who doubles as the President Afropol General Assembly, Khalifa Ounisi, said this when he paid a courtesy visit to the Inspector General of Police, Mohamed Abubakar, at his office. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu tells us more.
The police all over the world are in charge of internal security, and as such, the dynamics of its approach to the security challenges require a high level of professionalism. The Nigerian police has been given its personnel training and retraining from within and outside Nigeria to meet up with the challenges of internal security in the country. This courtesy visit by the Algerian police chief to the IGP provides the platform to synergize on Nigeria's security challenges in fighting terrorism and insurgency. The meeting also deliberated on the forthcoming Africa Police Conference, which will focus on the security challenges in the region.
En Afrique, un peu de retard dans ce cadre-là.
The tendency now is to have works together with many countries, and in Africa we have to work more in order to be at this stage.
The IGP is confident that the expertise and experience of Algerian police will no doubt contribute meaningfully to the fight against insurgency and terrorism in Nigeria.
The only way we can collectively defeat terrorists is by uniting together within the continent, and the umbrella that can bring us together to fight terrorists is the APRIFOR.
The meeting later went into closed doors to deliberate on some interventions regarding the security challenges in the region. In Abuja, Ilyasu Ali Yakubu, NTA News.
If you just joined us, this is the news on NTA International.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Thanks for staying with us. Now to education. A total of 669 computer-based test centers across the country have been used to conduct the 2020 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Mock Examination for more than 340,000 candidates. JAMB's Head of Public Affairs, Fabian Benjamin, noted that no computer-based test center has been reported for any examination infraction. He maintained that the mock examination was to test run the accredited CBT centers, as well as prepare candidates for the examination proper.
Report before the examination and during the examination as regards infraction, as cheating and stuff like that. But as regards cancellation of centers, we'll look at the centers again. If there's any center that fell short of what we expect during the conduct of the mock, such a center definitely will be removed from the list of centers that we use for the examination.
So far, 1.9 million candidates registered for the 2020 UTME, which is the highest since 1978. And from education, we now move to aviation. The federal government has reiterated its commitment in ensuring that nothing is left to chance in preventing the deadly coronavirus, codenamed COVID-19, from getting into the country. This was the submission of some cabinet members who visited the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport for an on-the-spot assessment of facilities put in place for early detection of the virus among passengers coming into the country at the airport. Anthony Folson reports.
As part of measures put in place to effectively monitor incoming passengers into the country, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria is collaborating with Port Health Services and other agencies such as NAMA, hospitals, immigration, customs, airline operators, ground handlers, among others. This is deliberately put in place to ensure entry screening, early case recognition, and continued preparedness and response with conducive holding areas, as well as adequate secondary screening areas. Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika says airport officials are on red alert.
As the airport operator, FAN is monitoring the international situation on the evolving global outbreak of COVID-19 and implementing other supportive preventive activities to improve symptom awareness of the disease among travelers and airport workers then improve environmental and personal hygiene within the airport and its host community.
While his information and culture counterpart, Lai Mohammed, maintained that the federal government has designed a robust enlightenment and an awareness strategy
to ensure that enough information is given to Nigerians. We've deployed all our platforms to sensitize Nigeria on what this virus is about and what we need to prevent it.
With the measures put in place being complied with, newsmen who accompanied the ministers witnessed the screening of passengers on board this Ethiopian airline. For those who had no proof of having a yellow card, they were immediately isolated and administered with the yellow fever vaccine.
We will not exempt anybody. Any passenger that comes through here does not have the yellow fever card. We will give him a shot for free, and then he pay his 2,000 naira and collect his card later on in town.
The other thing is visual, that is observation. You observe the port health people at the airport. They will observe the person, just on their own. Because when somebody is ill, just by the visual observation, you can know if somebody who is not really working well or when somebody looks sick.
For us in the ministry, we're saddled with the responsibility of giving protection to vulnerable citizens, as I mentioned. If people are affected, we have to come in to see how we can support them after the health workers must have done their own bit.
The ministers took time to go around the arrival section of the airport to ascertain the functionality of sanitizers and other such disinfectants. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
To other matters now, the Senate has confirmed the appointment of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu as Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. This followed the consideration of the report of Senate's Committee on Aviation on the screening of Captain Musa Nuhu. 5 bills were passed through first reading. This include the Investment Assurance Bill and the Nigerian Arabic Language Village and Ngala Establishment Bill. The Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Benin Gwari Kaduna, Federal University of Health Sciences, Otukpo, Benue State, and Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Abeokuta, Ogun State, were the 3 higher institutions' establishment bills passed through second reading. And the House of Representatives has called for more seriousness on the part of regulators of the nation's aviation industry following the recent diversion of international flights scheduled for landing at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, to neighboring countries. To this end, the lawmakers adopted a motion to investigate allegations that the instrument landing system installed was not fully utilized at the airport, which is why such situations arise. The House also expressed concern over the economic losses and inconveniences experienced by passengers. Plenary also adopted a motion on the need to overhaul and intensify security at the National Assembly, following reports which have been credited to management that intelligence has uncovered plans by a terrorist group to carry out attack at the National Assembly. House members called for installation of CCTV cameras at the complex and proper registration and identification of persons coming into the complex. For trending stories on the global scene, Uche Ogochukwu is our guide.
You're welcome. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo arrived Ethiopia, the last point of his tour of 3 African countries. His talks with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed focused on security concerns and Ethiopia's disputes with Egypt over the construction of a huge dam on the River Nile. He first visited Senegal, then Angola, where he praised the country's anti-corruption fight. Mr. Pompeo's visit is aimed at promoting American investments and counter China's influence on the African continent, while calming concerns over planned reduction of U.S. troops. European foreign ministers meeting in Brussels have agreed to a new naval and air mission to stop more arms from reaching warring factions in Libya. The mission targets the eastern Mediterranean, where there are reports of arms trafficking. The move came after Austria lifted its veto on sea patrols, arising from concerns that they could lead to an increase in migrants to Europe. Tunisia's President Kais Saied said he will dissolve parliament and call early elections if the new government lineup fails to win a parliamentary vote of confidence. The Prime Minister designate earlier presented his new cabinet, but the biggest bloc in parliament rejected it. He has until Friday to form another cabinet. And health officials in China have published the first details of more than 44,000 cases of COVID-19 in the biggest study since the outbreak began. Data from the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention finds that more than 80% of the cases have been mild, with the sick and elderly most at risk. It also points to high risks to medical staff. Meanwhile, the director of one of the leading hospitals in Wuhan died from the virus on Tuesday. That does it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
And for stories in the financial sector, let's join Onenge Fineface.
Consumer Price Index report released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicates an increase in inflation by 12.13% year-on-year in January 2020. This is 0.15% points higher than that of December 2019, which was 11.98%. A breakdown of the report indicates urban inflation rate increased by 12.78% from 12.62%, and rural inflation rose by 11.54% from 11.41%. Composite food index rose by 14.85% in January 2020 compared to 14.67% in December 2019. Rise in food index follows increase in prices of some items like bread, cereals, meats, oils and fats, as well as tubers and fish. Core inflation stood at 9.35%, up by 0.02% from the 9.33% recorded in December 2019. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) staff team consultation on Nigeria's economy report indicates that the pace of economic recovery remains slow, as declining real incomes and weak investments continue to weigh on economic activities. Inflation has risen as a result of higher food prices, while external vulnerabilities are increasing, reflecting a higher current account deficit and declining reserves. Exchange rate has remained stable owing to steady sales of foreign exchange in various windows. The report comments measures put in place by governments to boost revenue, improve budget implementation, and progress in structural reforms like the ease of doing business, power sector reforms, and strengthened governance. That's it on Business News. I'm Onengiye Fineface.
Thank you, Onenge. In Business News ends the news at this hour, 90 International. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Don't forget to join us at 9 for the network news. Good evening.